So very good afternoon and welcome again to this class of our Global Entrepreneurship, massive open online course. So today we are glad to have a speaker with us. Her name is Qingyi Fu. She's the co-founder and CEO of Triker Senedi. In 2013, Qingyi was selected to participate in the International Visitor Leadership Program, IVLP, for Women in Technology, the US Department of State's premier professional exchange program. She was also awarded the Malaysian Women Weekly's 2013 Great Women of Our Time Award in the Science and Technology category. Qingyi co-founded Senedi Sdn Bhd in 2008, a software development company based in Kuala Lumpur. Her company developed web portals for clients ranging from multi-operator bus ticketing systems to enterprise collaborative portals and various online platforms for startups. 4 years and 10 employees later, the company was acquired by Triker Malaysia and renamed Triker Senedi Sdn Bhd. She continues to serve as the CEO of the company today. And we are really glad to have her with us today to share her experiences. Please join me in welcoming Qingyi. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Well, I'm really glad to be able to come here and speak to you guys. And based on what Mushtaq was telling me, I think if I were you, I'd be really excited. If I were you and we had this back then when I was in college, I think that would have been awesome. Except we didn't. Yeah. So I think you are given a lot of opportunities, and a lot of connections, a lot of avenues and channels and platforms and people coming and sharing with you all the possible things that you can do. So I think it's a great opportunity for you. It'd be a waste if you did not, grab onto that. So I'm going to start with a little bit about the company. So as Mushtaq mentioned, we started in 2008. Now the story of how we founded is also somewhat accidental. So it's not like, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur from the time I was 5 years old. Some of us start late, right? So when I was 5 years old, I had no idea what I was going to do, obviously. And then I went on to do just what my parents wanted me to do, go to college, get a degree. And I studied computer science. Luckily, that was something I wanted to study. And then I graduated and I got a job. And then I worked at the job. And I worked at another job. And then I worked at another job. And I ended up in Intel, where I met Edwin. And that was when things start to change for me. So I was promoted to be a manager. I started having a lot more exposure. I started having a lot of opportunities to travel. So perhaps some of you here may come from families where your parents take you on trips, you go abroad and so on, or maybe you get to study abroad, or take a course abroad. But I wasn't from one of those backgrounds. So I've never actually been abroad much, except to Singapore, but that doesn't really count. I've only started going abroad when I was working with Intel, and they sent me overseas. And I still remember one of the first things that struck me when I got down from the aeroplane at the American airport was, my God, white people are sweeping the floor. You don't see white people sweeping the floor in Asia. White people wear suits and they sit in offices and they look very important. So culturally, that was quite a shock to me. White people don't only sweep floors, they work at cafeterias, they do all kinds of things, right? So in 2008, the dream job that I had came to an end. They decided to shut down the office and they said, why don't you move to Penang? Now that sounds like an okay sort of thing, except I came from Penang. If I wanted to be in Penang, I would have been in Penang. I came here because I wanted to be here, right? So I didn't want to move to Penang, and there wasn't going to be an office for me anymore. So I was out of a job. A lot of people say, wow, MNC is a very steady job, right? Just work there forever and then retire, very safe. Wasn't that safe, actually. So I was out of a job, and so were 200 of my colleagues. And about half of them went to work for Dell, which is just down the road. And the other half went to look for other jobs. So one particular colleague of mine, Karen, she decided to take 6 months off to go to Melbourne and do some holiday sightseeing. And when she came back, we decided to start Sanity. What we had in mind back then, and Sanity stands for Social Enterprise Networks. They wouldn't let us register SEN because they said that's a keyword, ringgit and SEN. So you cannot use SEN, Sendirian Berhad. So we added engineering, design, and innovation at the back. So that's the birth of Sanity. We then found out 6 months later that Sanity is also a place in Indonesia, some remote village that hopefully someday we can go and visit. If there are any Indonesians watching online, please do tell me where Sanity is. You guys know?
We have an Indonesian student.
Oh, great. Maybe you can share with me later where you're from, Sanity? Oh, that would be awesome. It's like, wow. Yeah, we found out later on that it's actually, we found it on Google Maps. So we decided, okay, why don't we just start this business, use our skills from our experience. Combined, we had like over 4 years experience or something like that. So we said, why don't we just use our experience and see what happens, right? We had no customers, we had nothing, we didn't have an office. We worked out of my study room in my apartment, and Karen kind of camped there for 6 months. And then that's when we got our first big break. Towards the beginning of 2009, when we landed a big project. We were very happy. It's like, wow, it's a lot of money, and we started thinking about hiring our first employee. And then we got our first office because we thought, we cannot be asking this guy to come to our house, right? Then it would be awkward because we have to share the bathroom with him, right? So we thought, okay, we get a proper office and we hire him. So the team started to grow from there, from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. And then in 2010, we landed 2 more large clients. You can see some of our customers here. And then it just went on from there until in 2012, one of our clients, which was Tricor Malaysia, decided to make an acquisition offer. We actually had 2 acquisition offers at that time. The other offer was from another company in a different sort of structure, different sort of share holdings. We decided to opt for this one for various reasons. Again, there are a lot of things along this journey that I learned, including going through this acquisition. Well, it sounds very sexy, right? Wow, I got acquired, sure, a lot of money and all that. Not all the time, and you got to know what you're doing. And you'll be surprised when we made this offer, I had no idea, is this a good offer? How much should I sell the company for? How much of the company should I sell? So I went around asking a lot of people. I wasn't shy about telling people, I have no idea, can you please help me? I asked lawyers, bankers, company secretaries, people's fathers, mothers, everybody. I asked anyone that had any sort of experience and expertise in it, and they all gave me answers that varied from here to the moon. So finally I realized nobody knows. So I just gotta simply whack lah, because nobody knows the answer. Nobody can tell me what the answer is. So I just have to go figure it out. And that was what we actually did. So today we also shifted our business model, our product services somewhat over time. And today we work on portals and apps. So we develop a lot of web systems and mobile apps for a lot of companies and businesses. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move to the next one. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of what I actually learned from my work experience. So I did go to college, and I went to University of Malaya and so on, and not to say that it wasn't a good university or anything, but there was very limited things that I learned from my time at university. Perhaps because there wasn't this sort of environment that you have here today, or perhaps I was just too blur at that time. I haven't really reached a maturity level where I could understand what people were trying to tell me, and I was not able to learn. Therefore, when I actually started working, that taught me a lot of things. And I know today the buzzword is entrepreneurship, but sometimes employment isn't really a dirty word either. It's not a bad thing. So to be part of a team, to be part of somebody else's entrepreneurial vehicle, it's not really a bad thing as well, because you still get to learn a lot of things that are necessary for you to run your own business, or to be able to lead your own team in the future. So things like customer service. Customer service isn't just what you see at McDonald's where the fella asks you, would you like more fries with that? You know, it's not just that. Of course, that is good customer service, but there's a lot of other things associated with it, like who do you define as a customer? And do you offer the same level of service to different kinds of customers? So there are many things, right? When you look at customer service, there's a huge amount of depth to it. And what you learn depends on which company you work with, which team you're with, what industry you're at, and what sort of products and services you're providing, and what type of customers you service. So in every aspect, you actually learn different things about customer service. Productivity and efficiency as well. So if you're starting your own team or you're being part of somebody's team, you want to be able to get to completing your product, you want to be able to ship your product, or you want to be able to meet your deadlines at minimal cost. So you need to worry about things like, are you being efficient? If you're taking 10 people to do the thing that your competitor is only taking 5 people to do, then you're already losing because they can sell at half your price. They only needed 5 people and you needed 10. You're not efficient, you're not productive, right? So how do you know that these things are important from the start until you try? Or maybe it's okay if you're not the chief executive officer kind of thing. It's okay because you still get to learn these things when you're working as an employee at another vehicle. People management and project management is also important, and these are different things. Yeah, the word manager is used very loosely, especially in our country. As long as you see the word manager, it means that somebody's promoted, highly paid. We should, manager, right? It's not quite like that. The manager is a term to indicate that this person is managing something. And managing doesn't mean lord over or take over. It means you have to arrange, organize, and make it work. And that's the real role of a manager. Manager is the real coolie, Coolie means worker. Yeah. So when it comes to things like people management or project management, different types of projects will teach you different things. So for example, now in my company, we do enterprise projects, which means we develop solutions for large companies like banks and so on. And these are a type of customer that have a certain level of expectation. And then I also have customers who are entrepreneurs. So this might be a fresh out of college person like you guys, or it could be a retired, somebody who is retiring and say, I want to start a new business. This is my idea. Can you develop this app for me? Because this is going to support my business. So different type of project and different type of customers create different experiences for my staff. So I try to rotate the staff as well so that they can learn. Because for example, one of the things we notice about entrepreneurs is that they keep changing their minds. Why do you think entrepreneurs keep changing their minds? Have you guys started on your idea yet, somewhat? Yeah. So you think, okay, maybe I want to do this as my project. Did you find that maybe a week later you say, okay, maybe that's not a great idea? Did you experience that? Yes? And then you think, okay, this next thing, this is what I want, really, I swear. And then 2 weeks later you go, but then I learned about this new thing, right? And then this thing, like, not very good anymore. I want to change again. So entrepreneurs will keep changing their minds, and that's fine. Because you are adjusting to new information, you are adjusting to market needs, you are adjusting to your customer feedback. Maybe you try to sell this product to your sister, your brother, your cousin, and then they go, no, I don't want to buy because of these reasons. And then you go, okay, I go back and change. So as a service provider to entrepreneurs, we need to be able to adapt to these entrepreneur changes as well. Yeah. So you guys are starting to think like an entrepreneur, that's good. Communication and solving multidisciplinary problems. So when I first started off as a software engineer, do you guys learn programming in your engineering courses? If you have ever taken a programming class, you probably understand how structured and focused and detailed that task needs to be. So you kind of like blank out everything else and just focus on that task. And when you're asked to solve a problem, you solve it in the only way you know how, which is the engineering way. But sometimes, to solve a problem, require you to know other things. Let me try and think of an example. When we asked our software engineers to design a system, they normally think about what sort of features would be cool to develop. It'd be nice if it was drag and drop. It would be nice if we could, do this fantastic thing and process it in most efficient, shortest time possible, and in this database that can hold this huge amount of data and so on. But is that what the customer wants? Because the customer is from HR, they don't really care about whether it's drag and drop. They don't really care about the database and all that. They have a problem in mind that is very HR centric, and they can only think about it from a HR perspective. So you get the software engineer talking to the HR person, and it'll be a miracle if they don't fight, right? They'll be like, no, that's not what I meant. So what I then learned is that we need to know a little bit of everything to be able to communicate. So I need to know a little bit about HR. I need to know a little bit about accounts, a little bit about project management, a little bit about everything. And that's why I get the title, right, CEO. Because the CEO actually does everything. When we first started the company, one of my chores was to empty the rubbish bin at night. Because who's going to do that, right? There's 3 of us, me, Karen, my co-founder, and our software engineer employee. It's got to be one of us. Somebody's got to throw the rubbish away, otherwise we're going to get all kinds of worms and stuff. Somebody has to wash the toilet, and somebody has to vacuum the carpet. It's got to be one of us. Yeah. So CEO doesn't mean I get my own driver, or I have this secretary that makes coffee for me, or take notes. And I do all that by myself. I manage my own schedule. I drive myself everywhere. I arrange everything myself, right? So if you know a little bit of everything, you can have a much more multidisciplinary approach to problem solving. And that can come from working experience, and that can come from things like project experience. So this kind of project that you're working on, the more real life it is, the better, because then you're actually solving real problems. And of course, working across geo and cultural boundaries. So this is I highlighted this because this is the main topic that I'm going to cover today. I came from Penang, which is a fairly big, small town. I never studied abroad, and I only started going abroad when I was working for a multinational company. But I did have the good fortune of working with different people from different cultures. So prior to working in Intel, I actually worked in a company that was a joint venture between a Malaysian company and an Australian one. So they sent over a group of Australian staff to work with us. So that was my first experience working with people who were not Malaysians. And they were very different. The accent was different. Half the time I didn't know what the software architect was saying because he had a very heavy Australian accent. I have to ask my colleague, hey, what did he say? Well, I don't understand. And when I started working with Americans, that was also quite different. I used to tell my colleague, sometimes I don't go out into the park because it's too dark. And the colleague goes, you mean there are 2 ducks in the park? So I no, too dark, like black. Oh, too dark. Okay, so I realized, okay, my English is different from your English, even though I thought I can speak English. So we have to kind of like adapt to each other to be able to work with each other. And this might be some of the things you will find when you start working in your multi-geo team. Oh yeah, okay. So I wanted to also highlight that one of the first few things I learned, maybe I move a bit, is that I realized not everyone celebrates the same New Year. So I'm ethnically Chinese. My family celebrates the Chinese New Year. We also celebrate the 1st of January New Year. And to my surprise, Intel did not recognize the 1st of January. We had to work on the 1st of January. I'm like, what? I thought this was the American New Year. So no, there's no American New Year. Oh, okay. Yeah. So if we had colleagues from Costa Rica, we had colleagues from Vietnam, from China, and China doesn't not everybody in China celebrates the Chinese New Year. They celebrate the national holiday, which happens in October. So I got to learn that, okay, even something so simple like New Year was different for everybody. Time zones. So we have people who were working with us from India that was working in a different time zone. So when I come to work, they are not here yet. When I go for lunch, they come to work. When I come back from lunch, they go off for lunch. And when they come back from lunch, I'm off. So I never get to talk to these colleagues from India. I have to specifically book a time to say, okay, I have to stay back, or you have to come early so that we can talk. Otherwise, we just won't meet, right? Even though we have all these advanced technological innovations like the telephone and Skype and all these kind of things, no matter what, we still cannot force time zones. Time zones don't change. Languages and accents, like the two ducks thing that I mentioned, accents are important. If you ever have a colleague from Scotland, for example, very heavy accent. I mean, we don't even have to look so far. Even Malaysia, if you speak to Kelantanis in Malay, they have very different accent. Someone from Sabah and Sarawak, they also speak with a very different accent. So that, and sometimes accents is not just about whether I understand you or not, but when I tell a joke, do you laugh? And if you don't laugh at my joke, is it because I'm not funny, or you're being rude, or you just didn't understand my joke? So there's a lot of these very small, sensitive things that affect how you work with one another. Yeah? And of course, diversity, family backgrounds, religious beliefs. I intentionally cultivate diversity in my team. I have managers who are female. My graphic designers are male, so I try to break the stereotypes. People who communicate well can be from any sort of background. Even if their command of English is not very strong, it doesn't mean that they are poor communicators. They can communicate very well using gestures, writing, or a mixture of English and their own local language as well. Sometimes you find very good communicators from various backgrounds. Yeah, I'll talk a bit more about that later. Okay, so one of the things that I try to incultivate from the start, that means from the moment we said we're going to start a business and we camped out at my study room, we make some decisions to say, okay, this company is not going to be Chinaman company. It's going to be more inclusive. It's going to be more international. Yeah, I know we're just two of us, but you know, we're going to be more international. And yeah, I know the first 10 people were all Malaysians, but no, we're going to be more international. So we have to constantly remind ourselves, what does it take to be more international? And we have to be mindful that we ourselves are biased. We are human, right? So we will have our biases, and we have to be reminded of those biases. And I will talk more about those. Okay, the first thing is the common language. I still struggle with this today in my company. I have a good number of employees who studied in a Malaysian school where the primary language of instruction is Mandarin. So their command of English may not be as strong as some of the others, but their command of Mandarin is very good. So they tend to revert and speak in Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever mother tongue that they are more comfortable with. Now what happens is that not everybody speaks the same mother tongue. You know, like I don't really speak Mandarin. I have a staff who is from China. She speaks Mandarin, but she doesn't speak Cantonese. And her Mandarin is different because she's from Shanghai. And nobody really, you know, it's different, right? So if I were to tell a joke or ask for help, what language should I use, right? There's this joke that my friends and I share. If you're walking on the street in Malaysia and somebody comes and snatch your bag or try to beat you or rob you, and you want to ask for help, you have to look around first and go, should I say tolong? Or should I say help? Or should I say kau manga? what language of help should I say? So look around, majority Malay here, so tolong. Otherwise, nobody will understand what you're saying, right? So that's the thing about being in Malaysia also. You get to practice this from the onset, because even Malaysia has so many different people that speak different mother tongues. So we started using a lot of naming conventions. So we refer to these naming conventions, like we use certain terms for our meetings. We say this is called a business update meeting. This is called a one-on-one meeting. This is called a what meeting. So it doesn't matter what language you use, eventually you have to refer to the meeting with the same name. We use naming conventions in our documentation, our technical documentation, our code, so that everybody can understand. Common language, share mother tongue jokes. There are some jokes that are different if you tell it in English or Malay or Chinese. It's just not funny anymore. If you change the language of the joke, it's completely different and it's no longer a joke. We try to translate that for our friends who don't understand that joke, so that they can share and appreciate, and it can be funny too, right? And we try to learn each other's mother tongue. It's hard, but we try. Translate for coworkers when clients insist on using non-English communication. So I do have clients, even people who work in large multinationals, that revert back to their mother tongue because they feel more comfortable. So they'll speak to you in Cantonese. But then my programmer is Iranian. How is he gonna respond? He doesn't understand Cantonese. But the client is speaking in Cantonese. I can control the staff, but I can't demand that the client speak English, right? Because they are a client. So I translate. So we try to do that and be mindful and try to remind each other that not everybody speaks the same language. And role model, walk the talk. So this is the part where I have to remind myself not to use non-English when I'm speaking to the staff. No matter who it is, I have to remind myself use a common language. Okay, this is the second part. This is a picture of my team. Diversity in hiring, practice non-discriminatory, and so on. So this becomes really important when you have people from different countries and different backgrounds. There are people from some countries where diversity is widely practiced and accepted, and if you are not doing that, it's kind of odd. For instance, when I was working in Intel, diversity was a very important aspect. American companies are sued if they discriminate. So for instance, when we process resumes of applicants, we don't look at their gender. They are not even supposed to have it there. HR takes it out. So we don't know this candidate is male or female. No photo, Malaysian resume, you always put the photo there. No photo, so no picking handsome, good-looking people for your team. And no age. So you don't know this person is 40 years old, 25 years old, you don't know. You just look at the work experience, the skills, the projects. So you look at the data that matters, not this one good-looking, this one male, female, the one. So that's discriminatory. We have to try and remind ourselves that not everybody thinks like us in Malaysia, where we have a lot of biases towards things like race and gender and stuff like that. And we need to constantly remind ourselves. So we have a policy, non-discriminatory. We have flexible work hours, for example. So when it comes to flexible work hours, it all started when we had a staff who was pregnant, and then she eventually had a baby and needed to breastfeed and so on. So we tried to give her some flexibility so that she can manage her family and manage work. And then another staff would say, but I don't have a kid, but I have a dog. My dog is as important to me as the child is to her. So I want to take time off to bring my dog to the vet, bring my dog to the park. I'm like, okay. Am I in a position to decide, is the dog more important, as important as a child to this person? So we decided, okay, we're not going to look into all that. We're going to assume that every individual has the right to decide for themselves what is important. Is it your parent at home, your grandma, it doesn't matter. We give you the flexibility because you need it as an individual. So we treat everybody the same regardless of marital status and so on. And cultivate and reward non-discriminatory behavior. So one of the things is when you're working in a team, in order for you to encourage certain behaviors, you need to reward it. You need to say, thank you for giving me the flexibility. Thank you for doing this. Always reward the person who is showing the good behavior so that they will continue to practice it. Yeah. Makes sense, right? I mean, if somebody tell you that they appreciate what you've done, you will keep doing it, right? So that's about inclusiveness. Managing cultural biases. So since 2012, my company's been acquired by Tricor. Now, Tricor is a Malaysian company that is owned by a Hong Kong parent company. So Tricor Global is based in Hong Kong, headquartered in Hong Kong. They operate in 27 cities. They are owned by the Bank of East Asia. Now, they are also a multinational, except that they are not headquartered in a Western country, but an Asian one. And to my surprise, culturally there are differences. Doesn't mean MNC means all the same. So Intel sort of MNC, and the Australian joint venture that I worked in sort of MNC, and the Tricor sort of MNC, they have some cultural differences. For instance, when the auditors from Hong Kong come and check our operations, they speak to us in Cantonese, as though we are supposed to know. Yeah, and they have this accent with their English too. And there's a lot of small things that tell you that they are very Chinese, yeah, because the majority of the employees are Chinese. So we want to tell ourselves as a company that we need to be mindful of cultural biases. So for instance, one of the things that I remember very vividly is during Chinese New Year, my business partner Karen said, hey, we should give ang pao to the staff. That sounds like a great idea, right? I'm sure the staff will be very happy. They will get some ang pao, and inside you have some money. It's not a lot of money, but it's a token of celebration and joy and so on. But then I was thinking, but is that a good idea? Because what happens when it's Hari Raya? What happens when it's, I don't know, Christmas? Do we have to give out presents to the staff on Christmas as well? So that really got us thinking like, oh yeah, so should we be giving ang pao and then the green pao and then the white pao or whatever? And at every celebration, there are so many. Where do we draw the line? So for several years in a row, Karen and I would go into this argument about, but it's just an ang pao, would you just stop it already? But we're international, so we don't want to give ang pao. Okay, so to this day we don't give ang pao because we cannot agree on whether it's a good idea or not. But personally, if you ask me, I think maybe it's not a very good idea for the CEO to be doing that, because I want the company to be seen as non-discriminatory and non-biased. So that's kind of the culture we want to do. But at the same time, we want to accept and celebrate differences. So for instance, when my Iranian staff needs to take time off to celebrate the Iranian New Year, we try to accept and accommodate that, right? When people need to take time off to celebrate Chinese New Year, we try to do the same. And then we try to cross-educate each other, the importance of each other's festivals. So that helps us when we start working on things. And you'll be surprised when you start to notice each other's differences. You also learn a lot about each other's home markets. When I say home markets, it sounds a little big, but what you then realize is that people who are different from you process purchasing decisions differently. They process products. The way they think about products and services is different. the way they think about customer service. Is it worth money or not? Is it a good buy or not? It's different. So if you're trying to sell to a Malaysian market, it's different from when you're trying to sell to China market or even a Singaporean market. Different age groups. So if this person is age 40 and above, they process things differently from someone who is under 30. So that's great with market study as well. I think that's about it. Okay, this one is important. So at the start, I mentioned that I didn't really have the opportunity to kind of go abroad and study or anything like that. But I eventually did make many friends from various countries. And that has actually helped open a lot of doors and helped me learn a lot about things. This is a picture that we took in front of the White House when I went for the International Visitor Leadership Program. And the ladies that are in this picture with me were also selected, just like me, from their each respective countries. There are 12 of us from 12 different countries here. Right? Sri Lanka, Hungary, Italy, Palestine, Iraq, and Tunisia, and so on. And we learned so much about each other and our backgrounds and so on. So when you are starting out your own venture, it's good to establish networks and connections. No matter where, no matter what background or nation or cultural background this person is from, you need to be able to take the opportunity to establish your networks. So starting from here, where you have international classmates, and you have an opportunity to form a group with international participants on this course, I think that's a great start. Because when you get a chance to work together, you form very lasting friendships. And you never know where you all end up 10 years from now. And that friend that you made today can become a very valuable alliance someday. Because these sort of friendships are not built overnight. It doesn't mean that, I want to start a business, I don't know, Google up or call up this person that I haven't spoke to in 20 years and say, hey, you want to be my business partner? Do you want to invest in my business? Obviously the answer is no, because, hey, you haven't spoken to me in 20 years and you want me to invest how much in your business, right? So you don't want to wait until you reach that moment and try to establish the network then. You establish the network every day. So don't take your friends for granted, right? Make sure you call them up, establish a working relationship now, and nurture that for the future. Yeah, you guys have friends, right? You know how friendships can be quite fragile. You forget to call this fella on 1 or 2 birthdays and you're not friends anymore. Unfriend from Facebook, right? Yeah, so I think I also find that tools like Facebook and LinkedIn, maybe because I'm from a sort of a technical background, I find that these tools are great for maintaining friendships and relationships. So, for example, this group of ladies that I met, we were together for the program for 3 weeks, and we formed a very strong friendship after that. And we keep in touch on Facebook, we keep in touch on LinkedIn, and we update each other on the activities that we do. So we know that so-and-so has started a new job, and so-and-so has won a new award. So we try to keep in touch. And when the time comes for us to work together, it wouldn't be bizarre for me to call them up and say, hey, do you want to be part of this new venture that I'm going into? And you can learn a lot from these sort of friendships too. I think that's all I have, isn't it? Oh yeah, one more, last one. This isn't really about culture so much, but it does affect how you pivot your business model to whatever market that works. So I wanted to highlight that you need to let go of your idea sometimes, or your notion that, okay, this is mine, this must work. I came up with this idea. Sometimes your idea doesn't work. It means it doesn't work. Let it go. Think of another idea. You will never run out of ideas. Don't be scared. You know, when I first started my business, I was so afraid to share my idea with other people because I thought that, what if they take my idea and do this for themselves? Then my idea would have been stolen. Because this idea is so wonderful that everybody wants to steal it. Yeah. Never happened. Never. I have actually got an idea that I'm trying to build a product. For the last 2 years, I have not been very successful at building it. I've shared the idea with everybody I met. Nobody stole my idea also. Nobody did, right? Even though there are other people who are doing similar things, they're not quite the same. And even if you told someone and that person tried to copy you, they still won't succeed because they are not you. So there's really no fear in sharing your idea with someone else. And for all you know, what if it doesn't work? Right? So don't like grab on to it that much. Let go of what doesn't work. So when you think of an idea, right, it's not just products, also your market, pricing, services, your SLA. All of these need to be evaluated and let go if it doesn't work. Because you need to be able to stop and say, okay, this is not working out. I don't want to throw in more money, throwing good money after bad. I cut my losses and move on, and pivot. One of the things that we started off was we built our own web content management system. I'm not sure if you understand that, but what that actually means is that for a website to have its content, you can either use a programming language called HTML, and you write out all the content and it gets displayed on the web. Or you have a back administrative panel where you type the content like a blog, save it, and it gets published. Yeah. So this was several years back lah. And we decided to write our own content management system because we were getting a lot of orders and clients that wanted it. And after a while, we realized that we couldn't keep up with WordPress. There's this open source software called WordPress that did pretty much exactly what we wanted to do and more. So the more features we rolled out, the more WordPress rolled out. And we just couldn't keep up because we are not as big as the open source community. Even though we loved our idea more, and it was our baby, and we really, really wanted it to succeed, we eventually gave up and said, never mind, we're not going to fund any more development for this product. We're just going to use WordPress. We bury our ego and go with somebody else's baby. And that has worked out really well for us. Because ultimately, what you're trying to do is not to, glorify your product, but to serve a customer need, to serve a market need. So the customer feedback is always the validation that you get from the market is always the most important, whether or not an idea works. So you need to be able to learn to let go. So these boxes here show some of the things that we have changed over the years, from UI to UX. UI just means user interface. So we used to think of designing very good user interfaces. So this is our strength. We sell to our customers and we tell them our software not only works, it also looks really good. And over time, that doesn't work very well anymore. So what if it looks good, right? So we realized that what we need is user experience. So we changed that and we gave new skills to the team and so on. So we actually let go of user interface and move towards user experience. We don't focus so much on growth, as in growing the team, and we focus more on productivity. Can we get more out of the same team? From services to products. So in the past, we used to provide a service. So if you needed a piece of software, we write for you, we custom for you, and so on. And that's a service. And we are now developing more of our own products. That means I don't custom this software for you, but you can use it. I license it to you, and you subscribe to it. So that gives us a bit of a recurring income and a different sort of business model. So over time, I have changed so much that I don't even recognize it anymore. Yeah, a lot of people still say, are you still doing the same stuff? Kind of yes, but also no, because we now have our own products. Yeah, we're still doing a lot of web stuff, but they're different now. We charge differently. We have different technology. We used to code in Ruby on Rails. We don't anymore. We used to provide software for operational stuff. We don't anymore. We do a lot of customer-focused collaboration software. So I think it's also good for you to evaluate your ideas with the market validation and try and figure out what works and what doesn't, and then let some of that go. I think that's about it. Yeah. So I just wanted to end with this phrase, strengths lies in differences. So when you assemble your team, find people who are as different as possible from you. That will make things really, really exciting. Do you guys have any questions? I know you guys will be shy to ask, so I have some gifts to bribe you. Well, this is a book on technopreneurship. So it's published by the Technopreneurs Association of Malaysia. It's called Women on Top. But what it does is that it highlights women technopreneurs. So there are not many of us who are in the technopreneurship field and who are women. Apparently there are just more men in this field. So Technopreneur Association decided to make a book about the women who are in this, to kind of highlight to potential women technopreneurs. I see only one potential one over here. And to say it's okay, you may be severely outnumbered, but you're not alone. There are actually other people out there as well. Yeah. So whether you're of any particular demographic, sometimes you feel you're alone because you're taller, you're shorter, you're bigger, you're smaller, you're older, you're younger. There are a lot of other people just like you as well. Yeah? So one book for every question. Come on. Yes.
Hi. How do you know when to draw a line where you give up what you have been holding, the ideas, you know?
Oh, when you decide that an idea doesn't work?
Yes.
I think you need validation. So you don't decide on your own, sitting in an armchair in a room. You need to go out there and test it out. It means you need to have some prototype of some sort that you can show your customer, a potential customer, and get your customer to say yes or no. Sometimes when we sit in our room, on our desk, we love our idea very much. And we think, how is it possible that nobody likes it? It's awesome. You know, it's just the most fantastic thing in the world, right? Test it out. And don't just ask your mother, right? Ask, or your cousins. Ask everybody. Ask people who hate you. You know, go out there and be thick-faced and say, hey, you know, this costs $50. $50 only is special for you. You want or not? And they go, no. Okay, get more feedback. And after a while, you will start to realize whether or not it's a completely bizarre idea that nobody will ever want and you need to chuck it away, or you just need to fix it a little bit, as in pivot it a bit. Maybe you just need to add something, or you need to take away something. The idea, the core idea still works, but you just need to change it a little bit to fit what your market wants. So the key here is to identify your market. Who are you trying to serve, and what problem are you trying to solve for them? And not to be too fixated on the fact that, you know, I woke up this morning and I came up with this really awesome, genius idea, and I think everybody will pay me and I'll be a millionaire. That rarely happens. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope he won't be disappointed in the content. He liked the title, definitely.
I see. Well, yeah, I know the title. It's different sort of women on top, though.
So you want to ask a question?
Yes.
Can you pass the mic?
Since the inception of this company and having so many impressive clients, what was your biggest challenge and what do you do to overcome it?
Biggest challenge. I have so many biggest challenge. On a more practical, maybe I'll share two. On a more practical side, cash flow is a problem. Yeah, so cash flow just means okay, I'm gonna sell you this book for $50, okay, and it takes me $30 to make this book, right? So I need to go make the book and then sell it to you for $50. I need to come up with the $30 first, pay the binder, printer, and all. Now I give you this book, and then you take the book and you go off. You say, I'll pay you next month. Okay, but my $30 already paid out. I need your $50 now, right? Otherwise, how do I pay my... So if you don't pay me on time, or maybe I don't deliver the book to you on time, I dilly-dally, or I don't do a good job, I come back and I have to, I forgot to print the last page, and I have to redo, then I have a problem with cash flow. Yeah, so cash flow is a great measure of how well the business is doing as well. So that is problem number one. The second one is, to some extent, scale, as in when we land big projects, right? We need more people. We need people who are very good at what they do in order to get it done properly. So big name clients means big expectations. They don't expect that you deliver half-baked work. They want nothing but excellence. So I need a nothing but excellent team to deliver nothing but excellent results. That may or may not happen sometimes because it's very dependent on a lot of factors. Did I hire the right people? Did I put the right people on the right job? Did I give them the right tools to do that job? And did I give them the right training? Did I scope the work properly? So if all of that didn't happen, and I don't deliver to promise, then no matter what client I get, big name clients or smaller ones, they're not gonna come back. So the reputation, you have to take care of your reputation and integrity. So sometimes these two things are kind of give and take. So in order to meet excellent results, sometimes I have to sacrifice cash flow. So maybe, for example, if I made a mistake, I have to pay extra to rectify the mistake so that my customer remains happy with me, right? Obviously, because I made a mistake, right? So I should be one paying for it. But once I pay for that mistake, my cash flow suffers, but my reputation doesn't. But if I decide, no, I don't want to pay for the mistake, I let my reputation suffer. My cash flow is fine, but my reputation suffers, right? So we constantly have to balance and make those micro decisions all the time to decide at what point do you sacrifice which one so that your business can continue. Yeah, so many big challenges.
Thank you for your speech. Actually, I wanted to ask, from your experience, do you think it's better to straight away jump into entrepreneurship or gain experience from employment? I mean,
okay, I think that is a very individual thing. So maybe background or nurturing aside, I have a brother. My brother is a born entrepreneur. Okay, he's been an entrepreneur, I think, like from age 2 or something. I remember when we were in primary school, he used to make me help him catch spiders so that he can sell them. I don't know who would buy spiders, but he managed to sell spiders at school. We would catch them in little bottles and he would feed them leaves and make them fight and train them and say, this is the best fighting spider in all of Penang and it's going to cost you this much because I fed him, I don't know what, leaves, and he's like trained like a warrior and blah, blah, blah. So that's the born entrepreneur. Now, I wasn't like that, right? So I'm like, okay, I was the worker. I was like, okay, I catch spider for you. He was my boss. And he's an entrepreneur up to today. So now he runs a restaurant, a burger restaurant, and a retail pharmacy. And he also has a bird's nest business with an Indonesian partner and so on. So that's the path of a born entrepreneur. Now, if you have that hesitation and you're not sure, going out and getting a couple of years of work experience won't hurt. In fact, it can strengthen your resolve, right? Which kind of happened for me because I just, like I said, some of us just start late, right? So I had no idea that I would be an entrepreneur and at that time. I just thought I'll just get a job and happily, trump along. But you will realize that even at work, you need entrepreneurial skills. Because when you're hired as an employee, the company wants to make money. The company that hired you wants to make money. The more entrepreneurial you are as an employee, the better you perform at your job. The more you get promoted, the better your chances are to succeed in the company. So that's when I realized, hey, even companies need entrepreneurs. Because I was doing quite well at Intel. The bosses liked my performance and so on. And that's because I was practicing a lot of these entrepreneurial things. I learned about, even though I was a programmer, right? I learned about ROI. I learned about, profit and loss for the department. I learned about salaries for the staff, and that's when they made me a manager. And then when I was a manager, I learned about overall business performance for the company. Like, how does Intel make money? What markets do Intel succeed at? What sort of products work in which markets? But frankly, those things have nothing to do with my job. But because I took the initiative to learn those things and start to think like an entrepreneur, it helped me in my career. And it rewarded me in my career. So I think either way you take, those entrepreneurial skills are going to be very crucial. And you can learn from both paths.
Thank you.
Yes.
One here and
Good. I have 2 more books.
okay, like say you're just starting, okay, so you want to, like, in terms of the learning cost. So our learning cost requires us to recruit people online, right? So what if you already get what you want, but in the last minute, the guy say, I do not want to do it, and you do not have the time? Have you made a situation similar or something?
Okay, is your question more of like, what if your business partner decides to abandon you? Something like that?
If that particular task.
Yeah, that's a very important element. So for myself, no. I'm very fortunate. My relationship with my business partner is very good. We work very well together. We fight all the time, but we are still very good friends. Yeah. But I have seen very many businesses fail because of the relationship with the business partner. So I think these are the kind of things you learn when you're in kindergarten. You've been to kindergarten? So play fair, be nice, share everything. Just be transparent about your intentions with one another. And sometimes you cannot help it if other people are going to be nasty to you or try to take advantage of you. So you need to be smart about it. Maybe draw up some upfront rules to say, if you decide to pull out at any stage of this project, there will be a penalty. Yeah? Some sort of agreement that you can make. Or try to persuade this other person to stay on past a certain crucial point. So you manage your risk. Yeah. So yeah, something like that. That will help. I think it's a people thing. Don't just assume that he's going to be there and he's going to be like your brother, even though you hardly talk to him. Yeah. It's not going to be like that. Yeah. But it's a very, very good question, because in the real world, I've seen so many businesses fail because of falling out between partners. Yeah. Happens all the time.
Hello. Yeah, I just want to ask, what's your definition of success? Do you feel you're successful now, or there's more you can achieve?
I'm sorry, I can't really hear.
What's your definition of success? Do you feel you're successful enough, or there's more you can achieve in your life?
Oh, wow, very deep question. Definition of success. Yeah, so deep.
Do you think you're successful already? You can just sit down, relax, or there are more
Actually, no.
things you can do?
I think there are more things that I can do. In fact, what I first started out to do, I haven't done. I pivot so many in order for the business to thrive. I ended up not really doing what I started out to achieve. What I wanted to do in the beginning was to set up a social enterprise, a social business, which is a business that derives its dividends by achieving a social goal. It means doing something good for a marginalized community or serving a social need, and not so much on the financial dividend part of it. So I haven't really done that very well. So that remains a dream for me. And I think success is something that is very, very personal. And just like your entrepreneurial idea, for me, the definition of success keeps changing. So if you ask me this question 10 years ago, 5 years ago, now, 5 years later, my answer will change. Yeah? And right now, at this moment, if you ask me, I think I'm okay. I wouldn't say that I can just kick back and relax. In fact, I don't think anybody ever should. No matter even if you win the Nobel Prize or whatever, I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in the world. Never sit down and rest, really. Maybe for the weekend, okay lah, but not like forever. And I also think that sometimes success, the reason why I say success is very personal is that things like family, friends, your own personal time, those things should not be neglected. So yes, while you should give it your all towards your career, towards achieving your financial objectives and your dream of building a business and so on, but never neglect the people who are supporting you, your family, your loved ones, your friends. You know, always try to strike that balance. And when you can achieve some level of balance, I think that's when you're successful. I think for me, the balance is more important than the spike in either side.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well,
We've run out of books, but
Yeah.
if you want to ask a question,
yeah, I have more books, you know, back in my office. So
you could send them
yeah, I
later.
could send them later. Yeah.
Any other? Yeah, send.
Could you tell us more about your startup? Like, how did you landed your first big project?
Okay, the first big, I still remember the first big project we did, which was the bus operator company. I had a colleague in Intel. So after we left, he went to work in a different company. And then his wife was working for a ticketing company. And that's when he heard that his wife's company was looking for a software vendor. So he said, you know what, I have this friend from Intel that came out and started their own startup. Would you want to try them out? You know, they're new, they're just two ladies. But I worked with them before and they are very good, so would you like to try them out? So the wife said, okay, you know, why don't I get them to submit a proposal and then we'll see where that goes. So we did, we worked very hard on the proposal and we went to see the boss because the wife was an employee in that company and we had to talk to the management. And we put together a proposal for that and we worked very hard to create a very good proposal. And that's when they gave us that project. So it's a combination of network. So back when I was an employee, I had a very good reputation, thankfully, and very good working relationship with this friend who would then think of me when his wife mentioned it, right? It's kind of like now, right? If you were to think of let's say a friend of yours said, you know, I want to go on a private tour to Cambodia. So you would think, do I have a friend that organizes private tour? You wouldn't think of somebody who did a bad job. You would think of a friend who has done a good job before you recommend it, right? So it's kind of like that. So work on that reputation currency that you have. When you don't have a lot of financial currency, the reputation currency can compensate a little bit. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
There's a reason I think he's asking you. Actually, there are 3 people in the class who are graduates already,
I see.
and they are very keen on starting up something. So they graduated last year and they stayed with us, trying to incubate some of the ideas that they have.
Excellent.
Yeah. So Sunny is one of them.
I think if you are looking for things like funding, there's a lot of opportunities available today for funding. including government grants and Cradle, and even angel investors. So recently, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Malaysia has just passed an angel investment law that says that people who invest in startups as an angel investor that meets a certain criteria are eligible for tax exemption. So if I was a very wealthy individual and I want to invest in your startup, and if I meet those angel investment criteria, I can put my money with you as an investment and be eligible for tax exemption. So that's a very good motivator or incentive for me as a wealthy individual to invest in your company. But of course, I have to like your idea, and most of all, I have to like you. Yeah. So you kind of have to work on that, right? Appeal to the investor, not just with your idea, but with your charm. Right? A lot of investors that I've met told me that they don't just invest in the idea, they invest in the founder.
Any other question before we end? Great. If you have no further questions, so please join me to thank our speaker again.